Hello everyone, welcome to this week's video from the Purple Penny. My name's Mark. I own and run the Purple Penny along with my wife Catherine. Purple Penny is a small family-owned coin and banknote dealership in the northern suburbs of Adelaide. We've been operating here in Mawson Lakes for over 6 years now. Been doing these videos for a bit over 5 years. We try to do it at this time every week, which is Monday at 12 o'clock Adelaide time. That being said, there won't be a video next week. We're up to something else next Monday, so there won't be a video next week. Do apologise for that. Thank you everyone for your patience last week while we broke in the new hardware. I think it worked out pretty well and everything went fairly smoothly, so here's hoping things go just as well today. We've been very busy here in the shop in the last week or two. Lots of buying, lots of selling. The release of the $2 rolls and C mint marks, the Torres Strait Islander flag coins, a couple of weeks ago. Always good for business, that sort of stuff. Brings people in that we haven't seen for a while, and they move around the shop and perhaps add some other things to their collection. Also, these things get in the news, and it does remind people that they have a box of coins and things like that they've been meaning to get rid of for a while. So it has been quite busy in here. We've been doing our best to keep on top of things and get new inventory up on the website as we can. Now let's jump into the news. We have quite a bit of news this week, which is good. The ongoing saga of the stolen Bluey coins. These were the circulating dollar coins with Bluey and whatever Bluey's sister's called on them, that were put out through the tills at Australia Post with the Bluey coin release last year. A pallet of them was stolen from a distribution centre in Sydney in June last year, and a number of them were sold via social media. The theft was found fairly quickly, and 40,000 coins were recovered from a storage unit. Those two men pled guilty and have been found guilty now, and they're awaiting sentencing. And a third person, who was the getaway driver, is due to appear in court in a couple of weeks' time. She's been charged with theft as well, so it'll be interesting to see what sort of sentence those people get for the theft of those coins. We'll just say a few hellos before we move on to the next slide. Hello to Gary, Peter, Gwen, Taz, Stuart and Catherine, who's watching from outside. She's just catching up on the mailing for the weekend. Next item in the news, we've got some coins struck by the Houthis in Yemen. You probably have heard of the Houthis. They're a rebel group in the north of Yemen, Yemen being a country on the southern side of the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. There's been a conflict there since about 2014, and the country has basically split into two, with the internationally recognised government having possession of the south of the country and the Houthi rebels having possession of the north of the country. And of course, like many military forces, whether they be legitimate or not, they're trying to control the economy. They control exchange rates, and right now they are trying to control the issuance of currency within the country. They're not allowing any new currency to enter their region from the south of the country, so as a result, banknotes are deteriorating fairly rapidly. Of course, paper banknotes only last a few months, and it has been over 10 years since they seized control of the north of the country. So what they've decided to do is, for the second time in about 6 months, is have coins minted to replace the degrading paper notes. So they've issued a 50 rial coin designed to replace those notes. As I said, it's the second coin that they've issued. And as you can imagine, the internationally recognised government in the south of the country is not recognising those coins. Similarly, the Houthis are not recognising any new coins or banknotes issued in the south of the country. So right now, the country has two central banks in place that are issuing two sets of coins that both halves of the countries do not recognise the other coins. I'd love to get my hands on one of these coins, but I suspect that not many of them will be leaving the northern part of Yemen to get into collectors' hands. Next item in the news is a coin hoard that was found about 6 years ago just to the northwest of Bath. 2,584 silver coins were found by metal detectorists, and interestingly there were 2 metal detectorists who were training 5 metal detectorists on the use of new metal detectors, and they happened to find this in a place called the Chew Valley. And of the almost 2,600 coins, about half of them were struck with the portrait of Harold II, the other half struck with the portrait of William the Conqueror. It's believed that the coins were deposited probably just after the Battle of Hastings. The Battle of Hastings was held in 1066, and it was between King Harold II of England and William, Duke of Normandy, who had invaded England. And of course, King Harold was killed in that battle, and William the Conqueror then took over England, and that was the beginning of the Norman conquest of England. It's thought that these coins were all minted perhaps just after the Battle of Hastings, and the reason that that's thought that is that the condition of the coins is excellent, that most of them, or as I said, all of them are struck with the kings immediately before and after the battle, and several of them are muled with designs that were perhaps used on William the Conqueror's coins, are muled with coins of Harold II's obverse. Now, it's thought that perhaps these coins were deliberately minted as a way of avoiding tax by preventing them from being devalued by the Norman conquest. So interesting there. Now, this has been the most expensive hoard ever found in England of coins. They were sold last year for £4.3 million. Some of them have been on display at the British Museum, but the Museum of Somerset, which is the local museum to where they were found, has permission now to display all of the coins, and they're setting up a permanent exhibit for the almost 3,000 coins to be on display. Would love to go and see them. You can see from the picture there that the condition of the coins is excellent, and they're virtually mint state, so they were buried not long after they were made, and you can only imagine why the person who buried them never came back and got them, because it is a significant amount of value. Now, the last item in the news today, thank you to Peter Andrews of Independent Coin News for this. He's tracked the sales of the Torres Strait Islander flag silver proof coins, which of course the ones that were in demand, 7,500 minted, release price of $90. You can see there that in the last week the price has pretty firmly tracked between $200 and $150. There were 2 higher sales there on the 7th of July and the 8th of July. I doubt whether they actually completed. And certainly today and yesterday the sales have tended towards the lower end of that $150 range. If you take into account postage fees, eBay fees on the postage fees, people that are selling these now are probably only netting $120 in their pocket, so it's only $30 above release price. What does that mean? It means that perhaps we'll give it a couple of weeks and see if the price continues to trend downwards, but it's probably a good time if you didn't get one of these silver coins on release day to think about buying, because you're not going to buy much above release price. And I take this as an indicator that the mint's distribution systems are working fairly well, that these have got into the hands of collectors, and that's a good thing for us as collectors, that the prices have remained low on these. Hello Alan, thank you for joining in, and thank you Peter Holdsworth for joining in as well. It's good to see you here. Now, I had a particularly fun time this week with people bringing in error coins or asking questions about error coins. I guess if I had to say one thing about a lot of people, not a lot of people, but a group of people who ring us to ask us questions, is that they are ringing us with perhaps for confirmation of what they already believe, as opposed to asking us questions. They just want us to tell them what they believe is true, and a lot of the time that has to do with error coins, and I understand it's a confusing area, but I thought it was worthwhile today perhaps just sharing some of the most common supposed error coins that we get asked about, so that the information is out there online, and if people, someone in the future is watching this and has an error coin and sees something that helps them, then that's a good thing. So let's just get this stuff up there on YouTube, which is where these videos go afterwards. Of course, Facebook deletes them all after 30 days, but they will go up on YouTube afterwards. And if we can just answer people's questions just a little bit earlier, then I see that as a good thing. Right, excuse me while I lean over here. So, coins that are not errors. Number one, acid treated coins. This is a 50-cent piece that I think came in through change here in the shop. I'm not 100% sure, but it has a particular granulated surface to it. You can see there that it has an odd texture to it, and the close-up of the Queen's face has an odd texture to it, and that's a sure sign of something that's been put in something corrosive. And the common comeback that we get from people is that if a coin was placed in something corrosive, then it would corrode evenly across the entire surface, and that is absolutely not the case. Acids affect metals along what's called the grain boundaries, and the grain boundaries are the little grains of metal that are formed when the blank is made, and those grain boundaries change and move as the coin is struck. And what you get is you get differential erosion of the coin, so it erodes differently in different areas depending on the grain structure of the coin on the surface. So you don't get a coin that erodes evenly, you get different areas that are affected differently, and this sort of odd granular surface here is typical of that. So if you do find a copper nickel coin that has this weird textured surface, then it almost certainly has been put in something corrosive. The next question we ask is, why do people do it? And we don't know. Many people damage coins just because they can, and you know, they're common. They are of low value, and in workshops and things like that, then you know, if you're looking for something to test out new tooling, then a coin seems like an obvious thing to test it out with. Just got a question here from Jake O'Brien. Did you hear about the old man who lost his collection, of which he had like 2 or 3 1930 pennies? Yeah, Jake, we talked about that a couple of months ago. So if you head over to YouTube and just look back through our previous videos, you'll see that we addressed that in a previous video. Now, next item on the item that is not an error, and this is an obvious one, but given some activity on eBay last week, I thought it was worth sharing. Probably just ask people to stop commenting on that particular gentleman and his 1930 penny, because we definitely only have one side of that story, and I'd rather we didn't get into something that has nothing to do with us. Right, so then we've got a damaged $1 coin. There is absolutely no way that a coin like that can come out of a coin press, because it just can't. Now, if you think about a coin die, everything on the coin that is protruding out from the surface of the coin, that is in relief, is incuse on the coin die. And so what does that mean? It means that everything that is missing on a coin would be a raised feature on the coin die. In this particular case of this dollar coin up the top here, you can see on the reverse around the left hand edge that there are many protrusions into the coin metal, and the only way that could happen on a coin die is if someone had deliberately welded metal onto the coin die to force that metal out of the way. Now, of course, that can't happen. Not in the course of manufacturing a production coin like a dollar coin, but if you run it over with a lawnmower or hit it with a hammer or something like that, you can certainly do that to a coin. So this coin is definitely damaged, and you can see up the top there that that's an example that we found, and down the bottom there is one that someone has up on eBay. Now, I don't like to think about the motivations of people who put these things up on eBay. I like to think perhaps this person is just misguided, but of course I certainly wouldn't go spending $15,700 on an error coin on eBay of any type, whether I thought it was real or not. I would only deal directly with a legitimate source or a legitimate coin dealer for buying coins of that particular value. Next error that is not an error, and we probably get asked about this 3 or 4 times a week, is what is called finning. And you can see here I've just gone to our bag of change this morning, and literally in 3 or 4 minutes I've found 2 examples of 50-cent pieces that have finning on it. They just both happen to be Centenary of Federation 50-cent pieces, and you can see on the left side of the reverse there that there's an odd double rim. Now what finning is a result of the tolerances in the manufacturing process. Tolerances are the actual size of something versus the expected size. A coin, when it is struck by 3 dies. It is struck by an obverse die, which strikes the obverse design, a reverse die, which strikes the reverse design, and a collar die. And the collar die constrains the outside of the coin. Sometimes that collar die actually strikes features onto the coin, such as the edge graining on 20-cent pieces and 10-cent pieces. In the case of the 50-cent piece, it doesn't strike anything onto the coin. It just stops it from spreading out too far. Now, if you have a tolerance between the collar die and the obverse or the reverse die, then what can happen if the pressure of striking is high enough is you will actually get metal squeezing up between the die, in this case the reverse die and the collar die. And that's what we're seeing on the left hand side here of both of these coins, is finning, and that is the result of metal squeezing up between the collar die and the reverse die. Does it make this an error? No, I would call it more of a production variation, and you'll see it more or less to a greater or lesser extent on 50-cent pieces of certain years. Centenary of Federation 50-cent pieces, it's quite common, and perhaps there was a problem with the manufacturing of the collar die that year or the reverse die that just led to a slightly bigger tolerance than normal. It doesn't add any value to the coin. It's not double struck, it's not double hit, it's not double printed. It is just what's called finning, and it is called finning because it looks like a little fin of metal. So not an error, doesn't add any value, and it would be something that we would get asked 5 or 6 times a week, whether it be over the phone or via people who bring these types of coins into the shop. Next coin that is not an error, and this is a particular favourite of mine, are coins that have been glued to another coin. Now, firstly, questioning the motivations of why people would glue coins to another coin. Catherine and I have a theory about people who glue 5-cent pieces together, that they're trying to pass them off as $2 coins in vending machines. But why someone would glue a 10-cent piece to a 20-cent piece or a 5-cent piece to a 10-cent piece, I have no idea. But again, perhaps people just because they can. But what happens when you glue 2 coins together with super glue or cyanoacrylate glue and then lever them apart is that sometimes you end up with glue residue on one side and a reverse impression of the other coin in that glue residue. Many people mistake these for brockages or double struck coins or coins that are struck through plastic or any other number of things. But of course they are just coins with glue residue on them. There is no way that in the case of the bottom coin there that you can have a reverse impression of a 5-cent piece on a 10-cent piece. It is just not possible. And even if there was some way of that happening, you would not see the details of the normal 10-cent strike underneath it. Similarly, for the coin at the top there, we've got a little fragment of glue above the platypus on a 20-cent piece, and you can see that there is the incuse and reverse impression of Australia there. There is no way in the normal course of manufacturing that that particular reverse impression can appear there. Certainly not reverse, and certainly not in that spot, and you wouldn't be able to see the details of the normal 20-cent strike underneath it either. So what you've got there is a bit of transparent glue residue. It hasn't been struck through plastic. It's not a partial reverse strike or whatever made up error terms you like. It is just a coin with glue on it. Both of those items came from Reddit, and you can go and look those up on Reddit and just see some of the wild and wacky explanations that people up there have for what these things are. And this just takes me to another warning for people who have error coins, is be very careful asking questions about error coins on social media. I have said before, the trouble with the good thing about asking questions on social media is that everyone has an opinion, but the bad thing about social media is that everyone has an opinion, and you don't know whose opinion is an educated one or whose opinion is one that they've gathered from spending 5 minutes watching YouTube. I did see a lovely clipped planchet dollar coin on Facebook this morning. Great big clip on it, and it was obviously real, and there was a couple of people in there that I respect very greatly who have pointed out that it's real. But of course, the people that are commenting the most and the loudest and arguing the most are people I've never heard of, and they are wrong. And the original poster of that coin, no doubt, is confused about the authenticity of it, because there are so many people who simply don't know what they're talking about that are arguing the most and are the loudest in the comments of that thread. So I am greatly of the opinion that if you are going to ask questions about error coins on social media groups, you should be prepared to realise that the people who talk the loudest and the longest are often the most wrong. And if you do run an error coin group out there on social media, then I think you should think seriously about moderating comments very strongly, because misinformation gets spread too easily, especially about, legitimate errors, and then also errors that aren't errors, like these glue coins I'm showing you right here. This is a good one that we got asked about this week, or last week I should say. The phone call of this started with a person who rang me up and said, I've got a 1932 penny that is definitely an error made at the mint. It was definitely struck that way. And I always am very cautious when people start their phone conversation that way, because that's a person that has made their mind up about what they've got, and they're really just ringing us to get confirmation of it. And I invited the person to send through pictures of their error, and you can see there's a 1932 penny with a partial hole in it and rounded off burrs around the top of the hole. Obviously a partially holed coin. There's no way this coin can be struck like this at the mint. Just think again about what the dies would look like that would strike this. You would have a little pin actually sticking out of the coin die, and that would form that partial hole there, and then there'd be all sorts of elaborate machining around the bottom of it to replicate those burrs that are there. So if you know even the slightest thing about coin manufacturing, you just know that that isn't possible. And you can see our comments there to this person. Thanks for the images. Someone has tried to drill a hole in it. Definitely damage and not an error. The person has said, why is there a die raised edge all around the hole? And we've replied with, that's metal that's been forced out of the hole. They're burrs. And apparently this person is a fitter and turner and has drilled thousands of holes, and they don't do that from drilling. Well, my only comment to that is that perhaps they had their eyes closed when they were drilling thousands of holes, because I've seen this many times and I don't drill a whole lot of holes. Again, if you're going to approach someone who is an expert, then approach them with an open mind. Don't just approach them having made your mind up and looking for confirmation, because you're probably not going to get what you're looking for. And the last, not an error, I shared this on social media this week. This is the result of a phone call that we had from a person who was aggressive and rude, and really had made their mind up already. Apparently they had a hula hoop 5-cent error, and they'd seen one on eBay that was worth $8,000, and they wanted to know whether it was worth getting it authenticated by PCGS. I suggested that the value was not $8,000 and got told that she didn't ask me what the value was, she just wanted to send it to PCGS. I explained that perhaps sending a damaged coin to PCGS would be wasting the $150 or $200 that the cost would be, and then got asked if I knew the phone number of anyone who knew what they were talking about, which was, you know, super good. Now, of course, what you've got there, that ring there, that I've pulled this image off of eBay, that ring there that you can see around the reverse, is you've got an incused scrape all the way around the coin. Now, again, if we think about how the die would be formed to actually strike that incused line all the way around the coin would be a raised line on the coin die. And of course that isn't possible. No one's going to make a coin die that has a raised line on it like that, that's perfectly circular. What is it? It's almost certainly a rolling machine scrape. When coins get rolled into tubes, the rolling machine often damages the end coins as it rolls up the paper, and it forms a circular scrape. I only had to look through our till out the front for about 30 seconds, and you can see that $2 coin up there. It's got a circular scrape on it. That is a rolling machine scrape. This is a very common thing. So this is not an error, and I don't care what name someone's given it, it doesn't create an error from it. It is just a damaged coin. So, you know, if you knew the very first thing about coin manufacturing, you would know that that was just a damaged coin rather than an error. And again, I do encourage people, if they're going to ring up a coin dealer, ring them with an open mind. Don't ring them just to have your misguided beliefs confirmed, because you're not going to like the answer. Right. Hello, Peter. Hello, Joseph. And hello, Susan. How are you? I guess that's it for today. Robert Remus says, make them send it for error grading so they learn. Robert, I had a person come in here one day who is a coin seller. They sell coin, buy and sell coins, and that's fine. And they wanted to send a coin off a grading for error grading, and they wanted to know how much it was, and I told them what the cost would be, and I said but they'd be wasting their money because their coin's damaged, and he was not having a bar of it. So I made him the offer that I would pay for the grading. I would pay for the grading out of my own pocket, and if it came back from PCGS that it wasn't an error, that it was damaged, that he would have to pay me double the grading fee back. And not surprisingly, he couldn't back away from it fast enough. I think, you know, when people have to put their money where their mouth is, often their strongly held beliefs fall apart fairly quickly. So yeah, there you go. Peter says, if they ring, charge them $20 for advice and don't give any until they give you your credit card details. Peter, yeah, well, I would, you know, it's an interesting idea, but we get so many phone calls from people who are looking to just get an idea of what the value of 50-cent pieces are and things like that. And we try to help out where we can. And if people ring us and, you know, talk to us politely, and we will help out everyone, and we'll answer the same call 1,000 times a week if people are polite. But if people are not polite, then I guess you know, that's when the job gets a little bit challenging, but it is just part of the job, and I do love this job, and a few rude people on the phone don't change that for me. Right, that's it for this week. Now there will be no video next week, so we'll see you in 2 weeks time, and that'll be the last video of July, be the last Monday in July. So if you have any questions you'd like answered in a question and answer session, then please send me through those questions. Send me an email, Facebook message, give us a call, send up a smoke signal, whatever you want to do, and I'll do my best to answer it in the video. Right, that's it for now. Bye for now, everyone. Happy collecting and have a great week.